Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's first session on Web GIS Development. My name is Krishna, and I'm really excited to present to you this course. In this course, we are going to learn about everything related to web development, specifically if we talk about GIS part. I'm really excited to join and deliver the knowledge that I have. We will wait for a few minutes for more attendees to join and then we will begin today's session. Okay, so let's begin. So today's lecture is going to be very amazing. We are going to actually talk about some myths that people have when they are not from a programming background and they want to start programming, or maybe when they look at other programmers doing the work. Whatever movies and sitcoms that we have seen till now, we have observed that whenever they will show a developer, he will be writing continuously and there will be a green line with the code coming on the screen, and then suddenly the bank has been hacked, or let's say a NASA website is hacked. But this is not the case. We are not going to be hacking any website today. We are actually going to start with learning HTML. This is the first step that we will take into the journey of understanding WebGIS development. I'm really excited to present to you this talk. Today's talk will focus more on taking out the fear of programming from a non-programmer, and then just introducing a basic HTML so that anyone who completes the lecture series will be confident enough to develop their own web products or websites using these technologies. Since I come from a non-programming background, I come from a civil engineering background, and that's why most of my friends are from civil engineering. And whenever they will look at my laptop and see the code, they will always get confused that, hey Krishna, how do you remember how to write this thing? Where do you put the comma? Where do you put the colon? Or how do you use the semicolon? And most importantly, how do you remember that whatever you're writing is correct or not? And they always get confused that programming is really hard. But what we are going to do today is we are going to actually take that myth out of your mind if you have any such. Development is not about remembering things and then writing them on your computer and then running it. It's definitely not about that. Most of the time, if you talk with any developer, most of the time their time will be spent on doing searches regarding how to do anything. It's very funny. Most of the time that developers will spend will be on websites like Stack Overflow, because the job of developer is more about finding a bug and solving it rather than remembering the code and writing it down. Nobody remembers the code. Till this day, whenever I start a new project, whenever I want to write an HTML code, I don't write the entire code all myself. I will just go on some websites and there I will copy the code and then I will start improving that code from there. No, this is not a cheating. This is how development works, guys. And the focus for me is to make you independent whenever you want to write a code. So instead of flaunting my skill and writing the code, what I want to focus on is how exactly you as a complete beginner, as a non-programmer, can understand the beauty of web development and can leverage the knowledge that internet has, and how exactly we can find that knowledge. So let's begin. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how exactly a website is made. Now remember that this question can have n numbers of answers. Let's go on a very simple website. For example, google.com. When you go over here, you immediately see that you have a search bar where you can do some input, where you can write some input. You can close it, and then you have this search by voice option. You have couple of buttons, then you have couple of links. I have my own photo, and then some options here and there. Now how exactly is this created? Right now we are living in an age where every day new JavaScript frameworks pops up, or new Python packages comes up, and which tries to solve a specific problem. So there is a no right answer to how a website is made, but I will give you a very general idea regarding how it is done. Whatever web page that we saw is known as HTML. So the web page that we saw earlier, let's say google.com, is made out of HTML. Now this is not true because Google obviously uses far more advanced technologies like Angular and whatnot, but ultimately everything is converted into HTML. Then we have a search bar, it's an input bar, and then we have some footer available over here, and then we have a navigation bar available at the top. Maybe I will not make this as a round, but I will make it as a perfect rectangle. So now this is the box which is made out of HTML. So a website is basically built in HTML. Now here you can see that the links over here are a little bit colored. My image is there, and maybe this is a wrong page to show, but generally if we go to any website, let's say sample portfolio website, if we go to any simple HTML websites, for example like this one, you will see that this website has some images attached to it. Then there is some styling that when I hover on this turns into gray. And then obviously when I click, something happens. So there are multiple things going on over here. So generally the web page is built using HTML. The styling that we see over here, for example, for each one of the components that we see, what should happen when we hover, and how exactly it should look like. So all this styling part is taken care by CSS. And then finally, what should happen when I click on projects or maybe awards. So the actual interactivity to the website is added by JavaScript. So these are the three main things that we have to understand in order to get started with web development. Of course, these are very basic technologies, and once you feel that you're comfortable, you can elevate yourself to wherever you want. You can learn front-end framework libraries like React.js, AngularJS, Vue.js. You can also start building a backend code using Node.js, Express.js. You can actually use some complicated styles using something like Tailwind CSS and whatnot. Once you understand these basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then it's only a matter of your imagination that where exactly it can take you in your career path. So for this course, we will be sticking with very basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And today we are going to start with learning HTML. So I hope that I haven't discouraged anyone from taking this path. Don't worry guys, it's really easy, and I'll be more than happy to present to you how to write code, and this is why I am here. Now let's start with writing a very basic HTML code. So if you remember, whenever you save any file, it will have some sort of extension. So for example, if it's a PDF, it will have .pdf. If it is a Word file, then it will have something like .doc or .docx or something like that. Just like that, HTML file will have extension known as .html. Now let me go to my desktop and create one folder, web GIS dev. Now this is the folder that we are going to use every day. So I will start with day 1, and now inside this I will start doing the development part. Now before actually starting to get into the development, we have to install few softwares on our machine. This is not to run the HTML. This is to write the HTML. Consider the fact that if you want to write a document, you will need some sort of software. You will need a Microsoft Word or Apache OpenOffice or something of that sense. Right now we are living in a world where we don't even need to download software. We can simply go to Google Doc or Microsoft Doc from the Google Chrome and then simply use it over there. But for the serious development, people prefer to use software. And this is the same case with developing a web application as well. You can also do this online on web server, but we will be using some softwares. And the very first software that we will be downloading is known as VS Code. VS Code is an amazing IDE that we will use to write the code. So consider that VS Code is just like your Microsoft Doc. You can write documents in it, but these documents are going to be HTML files, CSS files, JavaScript files, and almost all programming files. So depending upon which operating system you are on, you can simply download the VS Code. If you want, you can also download something like Atom or anything else that pops into your mind. You can simply search for IDEs to write code, and your search engine will give you awesome IDEs. Personally, I prefer Visual Studio Code because of course it's free to use. You can integrate your GitHub, you can install extensions and whatnot. But definitely this is a totally personal choice. Now once the VS Code is downloaded and installed, simply open the VS Code. And now you will see that the VS Code looks something like this. It might be a little scary, but don't worry. We are now going to look at everything that VS Code has to offer. So the very first thing we will see is the sidebar. First thing we have is an explorer where whatever folder or file you open will be available from here. Second is search. This will perform a search operation on all the files and you can obviously replace those. Third we have is a source control. So generally if you are cloning your code from any Git websites like GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, then you can do the cloning and source controlling over here. Then we have a debugger, then we have extensions and many more things. Finally, you can also log in to your GitHub account from here and turn on a sync, or you can go to the preferences and change the color or the theme or the font size and many more things. For now, we are not going to do that. We are going to go into the extensions and search for live server. Now, why do we need this is something that I will explain it to you very shortly. So if you see an extension like this, just click on install and it will get installed. Now the next thing is we will open our folder. So I will go to the desktop, in my folder WebGIS Dev, and I will open it. Now you can see that I have a day 1 folder and I can click on it, and of course it's an empty folder. What I will do is I will click on this new file, or I will go into the file and create a new file. Now when I do this, I can start writing into it. Right now the IDE that we are using, which is VS Code, doesn't know what type of file is this. So this is generally not a preferred way to do. But what we will do is we will click over here and create a new file. So I will give it a name sample.html. And immediately you can see that I have this symbol which tells me that this is an HTML file. Here I will change it to HTML. You might not see this, but that's fine. This is because I have more extensions installed, and that's why I'm seeing the Django HTML, but don't worry about it at all. What we will do now is we will simply write our name. So let's say I will write Krishna Lodha. That's all. I am not adding anything related to HTML as of now. Once I save this, I will go to my folder again. I will drag this file inside this. I will go to my folder again. And to open this file, obviously I am going to need a web browser. For the purpose of development, I would suggest to use Google Chrome or Brave browser or uh, Microsoft Edge or Mozilla Firefox, because these are the latest browsers which supports all the latest technologies. Once you develop your application, then obviously before actually putting it into the production server or before actually making it live, it is always suggested that you test your code on all the browsers that you think your user is going to use, so that there is no element of surprise for any specific kind of user. This is because browsers are developed by various companies, and not all the time all the companies will be up ahead with their development. So it's always preferred to use something like Google Chrome, because almost all the time it will have all the latest technologies inbuilt. Same goes with the Brave browser. Now I will click on this file and I will open it with my Brave browser, and you see I have my name over here. So you see that HTML file is just like any other file where you can write anything and it will appear on your browser. So there is nothing HTML-y about it, right? Or nothing web development. It doesn't look like a web development at all. We are just writing a name. I can write something like I am in a live session, and if I save this and if I go to my browser one more time and refresh it, you can see that I have a latest text. I am in a live session. So this is how the HTML file works. But obviously we don't want to create a web page with just text like this. We obviously want to develop a web page where we can add images, where we can add tables, we can format our text and whatnot. So to do that, we are now actually going to write the HTML code. So HTML is a tag language. So that means you have to keep on writing tags in order to do different things in HTML. For example, the very first tag that we use whenever we are writing an HTML file is HTML tag itself. So you can see that to write a tag, we will start with, we'll just simply close this for now so that we have a longer space to write. And you can see that to start writing a tag, we will use this less than, greater than sign or less than sign. We will use the less than sign, and then to close the tag, I will again use the greater than sign. And this is how I have opened a HTML tag. Now there are some types of tags that you need to close by adding one more tag. So for example, to close my HTML tag, I will simply do something like this. Now this tells me that whatever code I will write inside this is wrapped in this HTML tag. Now again, I will write simple thing like hi Krishna, and that's all. If I go to my website again, I will refresh and I will see the latest code. Now one thing you might have noticed, that whenever I make any change to this page, I have to come here and I have to refresh this page. Right now it's fine because we are doing very basic changes. But imagine a time where you have to do lot of changes and you have to keep on seeing them whether they look fine or not. In that case, it becomes really cumbersome to come all the way up to the refresh tab and then refresh it again and again. And to solve this exact purpose, we have added the live server. So if you remember the extension that we added earlier, it was live server. So once it is installed, we will close our VS Code and we will open our folder in VS Code one more time. Now this time I will simply drag and open it in VS Code. This is how it will also work. And once I do that, I will again change my Django HTML to HTML. And once I do that, you can see that I have this one more tab known as Go Live. And when I click on it, you can see that now we have the exact same code. So what's the difference? Now let's see what is the difference. I will put my web browser in half page and I will put my VS Code in half page. Let me try to put this in half page. Okay. And now let's see the magic. I will just simply change something over here. Hey there. And as soon as I save this, you can see that without body. Okay, so we have to add body and head tag. Okay, so what we will do is we will first understand the tag and then we'll come back to the live server again. So the first tag that we have seen is a HTML tag. Now generally HTML page will have three major tags. It will have an HTML tag, and inside this we will have a head tag and a body tag. So head tag is generally where you will attach the external files to your HTML page. You will write some style in it. You will also write SEO related stuff in head tag, and all your body that you want to add in your HTML page will go under the body tag. So generally we will start with HTML tag, then we will open a head tag, and if you want to write something in it, we can. Otherwise we will go into the body tag. And notice that since I'm using VS Code, as soon as I close my body tag, it automatically creates the end body tag for me. So this is one of the advantage of using a smart IDE. It saves us a lot of time. And now let's say I will move my code in here. Hi, this is Krishna. And now let's try one more time. Okay, now if I write something else like this, we are in live session, and as soon as I save this, you can see that without even going to the browser and refreshing it, we can see the latest update. So this is the advantage of using a live server. We can now make any changes and it will appear over here. Let's say if I write title sample HTML, and as soon as I save this, you can see that here now we have a sample HTML name. So that is the advantage of using a live server. So whenever we will code in HTML, we will make sure that our live server is on so that we can test our code immediately. Now, how many tags are there and how do you remember that which tag you have to use whenever you are coding? The answer is going to scare you. If I simply go on Google and search for total tags in HTML, you will see that the list will be very huge. There are so many tags available that it's almost impossible for anyone to understand these tags and remember these tags. So these are even some of the tags which are widely used. There are so many tags available. So the trick is that we never remember all the tags. We will only remember few tags that we are going to use oftentimes, but apart from that we don't have to remember anything, because again, since we are working as a web developer, we have to make internet our best friend. There are few websites that I will show you right now that I would highly recommend that you bookmark. So the first one will be W3 Schools. Once you come to the W3 Schools, get into the HTML panel and you will see everything about HTML in this website. This is one of the best websites that generally beginners, and not just beginners but all developers, use in order to understand the code and in order to try out the code. So for example, if you go to the HTML basics, if you scroll down, you can see this button known as try it yourself, and when you click on it, you will have a browser based code editor. So as I suggested earlier, that even though you can write a document file on web browser using Google Doc, but you can also do it using software like Microsoft Word. This is the same case. We can also write code in our IDE, which is installed on our machine, but we can also do the same thing with browser. So here if I make any change like my first online session, and if I run this, you will see that you immediately see the difference. So you can also use web based IDEs whenever needed. Moving forward, as we said that W3 schools will have all the tags available to us and more information about these tags. So we will keep on referring to this website so that you will get familiarized with how to use this website in order to create your projects. So the next website that we have to keep in mind is Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is very important, guys. You have to create your account on Stack Overflow tonight itself, because once you understand the power of Stack Overflow, you will never feel that you're alone wherever you are stuck. Generally, whenever people are stuck, they will come to the Stack Overflow in order to search whether someone in the past had the same problem and how exactly they have solved it. Usually, most of the problems that you as a beginner is going to face are you will find answers to those over here. So don't worry about it. Just make sure that you get very used to using the websites like W3 Schools and Stack Overflow, so that whenever you are stuck, instead of getting frustrated, you can first check these two websites to find the answers. Okay, now back to our main file. Now, how exactly we get an idea that what we are writing is, and how exactly we can come to know that whatever we are writing is actually getting rendered? When we go to the sample HTML using a browser like Brave or Google Chrome, once you right click, you will see something like inspect. When you click on inspect, it will open up a developer tool on your browser. So generally, either your developer tool will be on the left or on the right or at the bottom, depending upon where it is, or it can be a separate window itself. This is again a preference of your own. Now if I go to the Elements tab, you can see that this looks like an HTML, right? So you have an HTML, you have a header tag, inside this you have a sample HTML, and then you have a body. This is Krishna and we are in a live session, and then you see some script. Wow, what is this? Now this is the script which is added by the live server. Don't worry about it at all. So you can see that code injected by a live server. So if you're not using live server, you will not see this script, and that's totally fine. But one thing that we notice over here, that we got what we wrote in the IDE, and then we got something else. We have this Grammarly and more things. Don't worry about Grammarly as well, because this is again an extension that I have installed on my desktop, and that is why I am seeing this. In your case, you will see a HTML with head, with the title, and a body tag with the text. That's all, nothing else. Now this is how the HTML page is actually rendered on the browser, and this is known as document. So whatever we have written can be accessed using a document. Now earlier we were in an element tab, which basically represents an HTML element, and now we are in a console tag. So console is generally used while we are developing a application which uses JavaScript. But don't worry about it, we are going to get into JavaScript in the dedicated session. Right now let's just stick with the elements. Now what else can we do with this? I can simply double click on it and change the text as well. This is changed text, and as soon as I click enter, you can see that my text is changed over here. This is crazy, right? If I go to Google and if I open the inspect tab, and if I clicked on this, so the first symbol that you see is inspect symbol. This is one of the most important symbol that we will keep on referring to. So if you check the google.com, you will see that this body tag and the div tag and everything is so complicated. How we are going to get an idea that where exactly is this Google search button related HTML available? So to do that, we are going to use something known as inspect element. And when you click on it and when it is activated, now you can see that when you move your cursor, page gets highlighted for that specific component. So if I go all the way down to this Google search button and when I click on it, I will immediately get the HTML code that is represented by this. So if I change the Google search to something like Krishna's search, it will not change because this is area label. But let's try to now change something that we can actually change, because as I said, this is not a plain HTML page. This is obviously a complicated HTML page. Now again, if I go to the Hindi and if I type something like Krishna and if I click enter, you can see that now the name changed to Krishna. So what does this actually mean? Does it mean that anyone who now opens Google will see Krishna written over here? No, that's not true. Even for our example where we made the change, if I refresh my page one more time, the change is gone. So this tells us that this is a temporary change. Whatever we are making changes in the elements will only live in that element or in that session particularly. As soon as we refresh the page, it is gone. So don't worry about it. Your original code is totally fine. But now you got an idea that how exactly you want to, if you want to check any website's code, how exactly you can do that. Now remember that if the website is simple, you will see a simple code like this where you have a very basic tags and very basic text inside them. But when you see a complicated websites like this, obviously these are not going to be very straightforward. You will see something like JS controller, class, style and whatnot. Don't worry about it, even though it might look a little bit confusing as of now, but as we move forward, we will unravel each and everything and how exactly they are doing it. For now, let's just stick with our file. So we have created the basic file. If you go to the Google, you will see that they have something written over here known as Doctype. Now what exactly is this Doctype? And more importantly, why is it outside the HTML tag? Because generally when we are writing a HTML page, everything that we are writing has to be inside the HTML tag. So if I go back and if I write Doctype about this, you can see that I got Doctype HTML written over here. So why this Doctype is important? Basically, this tells browsers that which type of page is this, whether it is a HTML page, whether it is a HTML5 page, whether it is an SVG, or what else is this. Now why is this important? Because HTML5 has some components which are advanced and might not be performed well by HTML. Or maybe if you want to create an SVG image, you generally write it as a code rather than creating it as a PNG or JPEG or something like that. In that case, it is important for us to let the browser know that which type of data should it expect. Generally, if you don't write Doctype, that is also fine, because browsers will go through your code and try to get the idea that which type of data it is. But always it is advisable to write the tag. So for us, it will be HTML tag. Now let's try to add some more text over here. So we have added this is Krishna and we are in a live session. But for me the text looks very boring. I mean, it's just a normal text. What if I want to write we are in a live session in a bigger way, so that it catches the eye whenever someone loads the page. So what we can do in that case is we can actually add it as a heading. So to add a heading, we will use a h tag, and h tag goes from h1, which is the biggest of all the way up to h6. So as soon as I create a h1 tag, you can see that we also have a closing h1 tag. The difference between HTML and HTML5 is that HTML5 is a little bit more advanced, which means that it has more tags support and attribute supports given to it. I hope this answers your question. And now what I will do is I will cut this we are in a live and I will put it in this h1 tag. And if I now go to my web page one more time, you can see that now we have this text in a in a way that we were expecting it to be. So it actually looks like a heading, right? It is bold, it is big, and it actually looks like a heading. Now we can, same way, we can add h2. We are learning HTML, and if I save this, you can see that even though this is a heading, this is, in comparison with h1, it is smaller. All the way we can go up to h6, where h6 will be very smaller. We are having fun, and you can see that it is actually smaller than the original text. But again, this is what the HTML gives us. We can write headings all the way from h1 to h6. What will happen if I write this code over here and I am doing this on YouTube? So our expectation is that we will see this code in heading 1, heading 2, heading 6. Then we will see this code as a normal text, and on the next line we will see this code known as I am doing this on YouTube. Now if I save this and if I go back, you can see that in our code we have this on a next line, but in our browser we have this on the same line. Now what exactly happened over here? Now let me take this code at the side so that we can compare it side by side. Now what exactly happened over here is that HTML doesn't care about indentation. It doesn't matter if you write one line of code over here and then you kept some space empty and then added another. It is going to neglect all this space, and then it is going to just convert this to something like this, and it is just going to render that. So in order to write code on different lines and treat them as a different paragraph, we will use a paragraph tag, which is generally a p tag. Now whatever you write inside these opening and closing p tag will be considered as one paragraph. So I will write this over here, and now I will open another paragraph where I will write this. And now as I do this, you can see that now our code is actually the way we wanted it. You can see that we have h1 tag, h2 tag, h6 tag, p tag, and another p tag. So this is how paragraph tag is used. We can, what if I don't want to give this much space in my two texts? What if I want to write one line? I'm doing this on YouTube live, and this is for GIS community. Now what I can do is I can insert one more tag known as break tag, and you can see that now this actually broke the line after for and between the GIS community. But you can now get an idea that when you create a paragraph tag, it actually takes you on the next paragraph per se. But when you use the br tag, it is not taking you on the next paragraph, but simply on the next line. That's all. So this is the difference between paragraph and a break tag. So there is a question in the chat that the boilerplate is same for both. Let's try that. Now before trying that, I will give an idea to the audience that what exactly is boilerplate. So you got the idea that whenever we will write an HTML code, we will have an HTML tag, then we will have a head tag, and then we will also have a body tag. So it will become very boring for us to write these tags all the time, right? There must be a quicker and easier way to do this, and there is. If you just write an exclamation mark and hit enter, you will see that you will get a created boilerplate code ready for you to insert your data and use it. For example, it will have a meta tags, which we will see later. It will have a language attribute attached to the HTML and whatnot. So this is what a boilerplate is known as. The reason why the boilerplate for HTML and HTML5 will be same is because potentially both are HTMLs only, and it's not that the difference is like sun and moon. There is a very small difference in few tags that we will see when we actually work with HTML and HTML5. For most of the use cases, both will work just as fine. So you don't have to worry if you are using HTML or HTML5. Now we will again create our boilerplate tag and write some code in it. About me. Now let's say I want to create a portfolio page about me. So the first thing I will do is I will write a paragraph tag where I will write name, and name is Krishna Lodha. Then another p tag. Now notice that since I'm using VS Code, I don't even have to use the symbols every time I have to create the tags. What I can do is I can simply type just p, and the VS Code will give me all the tags that starts with p, and then I can use any tag from that. Since I want to use p, I will just type p and click on the first suggestion, and that's all. This will create a tag for me. Education, be civil. Next tab is work, freelancer, and that's all. Now I have the text with me. But there's one more thing that we have to remember. Right now we are writing codes worth of 14 lines, or let's say at max 100 lines. But generally when you will do some serious coding, it will it will go all the way up to 100,000 lines, or more than that, and it might become a little bit cumbersome to remember that what you have written at various places. So to solve these problems, we introduce comments wherever we think that another developer can benefit from it. Now what exactly is comments? All these tags that we are seeing over here are actually getting executed. So if I write something like write your name below, if I write it and if I save this, I will see this code. I will see this text in my code. I don't want to do that. I just want to write this sentence so that whenever someone opens an HTML page, they will see that okay, after this line I have to write my name. So that means this is a comment. To write a comment, simply select this code that you want to comment out, or just go to that line and click on control question mark. Once you do this, you can see that now this line became green color. This is because I am in VS Code. You might see this line in some another color, but the idea over here is that now if I save this, you can see that the code is gone. We don't have this write your name below code anymore in our page. This is because this is now treated as a comment. So generally whenever we will write our code, it is a good practice to have comments written in your code so that anyone who will watch, or whoever is watching your code, or maybe whoever who is dealing with your code or extending it, can get an idea that what exactly goes at what places. So it is always recommended that you write comments wherever needed, but at the same time don't write too many comments, because it is just going to increase the size of your HTML page, and we definitely don't want to do that. Okay, please post any questions if you have in the chat box. We will take a 5 minutes break where I will talk with the attendees if they have any questions so far. Otherwise we will move forward. Okay, since we don't have any questions, let's just move forward now. You can notice that I have copied some code or some basic text from this lorem ipsum website just to have some code to play with. So we have a question that in GIS web development, is it mandatory of HTML and JavaScript? Basically, HTML and JavaScript are the base for any web development that you want to do. It doesn't matter if you want to work in HTML, if you want to work in a GIS industry or not. Web development starts with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So before learning that, it'll be very hard for you to get into the GIS web development, because ultimately GIS web development will be just an addition of few things that we will learn on top of these technologies. So I would highly recommend to learn this before moving forward. Okay, now back to our course. Now we have copied some paragraphs, but obviously since we don't have a p tag, you can see that all the text is merged into one another. So the first thing that we will do is we will introduce some p tags. Okay, and now we have the code in some better looking format. You can see that I have added three p tags and I have kept last text as it is, not a problem. So the basic web base GIS is HTML, JavaScript. Yes, it is HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, because obviously we are also going to need some styling to our web page as well. So CSS will be the second step for this WebGIS development journey. JavaScript will be third, and so on and so forth. Okay, now we will spend some time into formatting this text, because generally whenever we will write some text, we obviously want to do some formatting, make some text bold, some text italics, and whatnot. Okay, so let's start with making some text bold first. So what I want to do is I want to make this lorem ipsum text bold. So to do that, I have a tag known as b. So if I put any text inside this b tag and if I save this, you can see that immediately my text is now darker because it is bold. Same way I can add I, which will make it italics. So if I press I and if I put some text inside this, you can see that now the another text is italics. The first one is bold, second one is italics. I will make it smaller so that it's easier for us to read, and I will take it down so that it's again we have a much more space to read. Okay, now let's move forward. Now we know how to make it bold or italics. Let's also try something else known as strong. So if I write strong and if I put any text inside it, for example this, you can see that it just looks like a bold. Then what is the difference between b tag and strong tag? So from an SEO point of view, the strong tag is preferred because this tells SEO, this basically tells the something like Google that this is specifically written in strong. That means that inside this paragraph this is an important text, and from an SEO angle it is very important for us that whenever we are writing any page, we are making it SEO friendly. So when we use strong, this tells the this gives an idea that these words inside these paragraphs hold some meaning, which is not the case with the b tag. B tag will simply make it bold, but strong tag will make it bold as well as add some weightage from an SEO point of view. The same way goes with EM tag. So if I add EM after this to some words, let's say till here, you can see that now again this text became italics, but again there is the same difference that we saw with the bold and strong. I will make it italics, but em will make it italics as well as add some weightage from an SEO point of view. So remember that we should use strong and em whenever required, but at the same time also remember that if you add too many strong or em tags, this will also be considered as a red flag, because this will give this will give it an idea that you are trying to do this, that you are trying to actually rank up by adding too many strong tags, which is definitely not recommended way to do it. So use it wherever it is absolutely necessary. Now what if I want to write something like 2 square is equal to 4? If I do it right now, it will look something like 22 is equal to 4, but I want to actually put this 2 on top of it. So in order to do that, we will use a tag known as super, which stands for superscript. So if I do sup 2 and if I hit enter, I will actually add it in one more p tag so that we can see it properly. Now you can see that we have 2 raised to 2, 2 square is equal to 4. So this actually looks like a superscript. Same way, if I want to write something like H2SO4 with obviously H as a normal, 2 which will go as a subscript and 4 which will also go as a subscript, in that case I will again put it in a p tag and then I will use subscript. So SUB. Inside this I will write 2, I will remove it from here and then I will write SUB one more time, and then I will write 4 inside it. Now if I save this, you can see that we have H2SO4. I can remove all these unnecessary spaces to make it better. And that's all. Now it looks much more cleaner. So this is how we will use superscript and subscript. I have already presented that if I want to break the line without actually creating a new paragraph tag, I can simply write a BR tag. Notice that BR is a self-closing tag. It doesn't need something like dash. It doesn't need something like this. It is a single self-closing tag. So if I do this, you can see that this text came on the new line. So this is how we break the statements. Now if I want to make any specific word smaller, then I can simply use a tag known as small. So if I put it over here, you can see that this Dolore became smaller in comparison with the text we had earlier and of course afterwards as well. So this is how we can make it a smaller. If I want to highlight some text, imagine that if this text is on paper and you have a highlighter, when you will use your highlighter, the text will be like that only, but it will have a background of, let's say, yellow. So to do that, we will use a tag known as mark. So if I do this till here and if I save this, you can see that now my text has a yellow background. So this looks like a highlighted text. So this is how we will use a mark. Now let's say that you want to scratch some text off. So it gives an impression that this text is not any more useful. You want to delete that text basically. Then we will use a tag known as del. If I do this, you can see that now we have a line over this text which tells us that this is a deleted text. Now all these are basic formatting techniques that we can use whenever we want to write our code or whenever we want to write the text in our code. Similarly, we can also add an insert tag which will give user a impression that this text is just added. So I can have something like ins, and if I close this tag over here, so this gives an idea that this text is added and this is obviously removed. So this gives user an idea. Similar to that, if I want to write something in quotes, I can use tag known as Q. So if I write this paragraph in, let's say, Q tag, let's say for first few sentences I use the Q tag up until here, then you can see that this looks like a quotation. So this looks like a quotation tag. So this is how you can write quotations using a Q tag. Similar to this, we also have a block quote. So if I write it like this, block quote, now this will actually look like a block. That means it will come a little bit to the right hand of the screen. So if I write my block tag over here, so you can see that this looks like a block text in our application. So this is how we can create blocks, quotations, and finally we can also add abbreviations. So if I add something like ABBR, and obviously abbreviation will need a title, that this is a dummy text, and we will add some text in it, dummy text. And if I save this, this gives me this dotted line below the text, and when I hover on this, this gives me the information that this is a dummy text. So this is how we can format and add abbreviation to our web page. So this is generally how we will be creating different types of formatting elements to our pages. So far we have seen bold, then we have seen italics, then we have seen strong, which is exactly like bold, but obviously it adds SEO perspective to the code. Similarly, we have seen EM, we have seen small, then we have seen delete to add a line on the text which gives an impression that you have deleted this text. Then we have seen mark, which gives user an idea that this is a highlighted text and you mark it as a highlight. Then we have seen a BR tag, which basically breaks the line. Then we have seen INS, which stands for insert, and this will add a underline to the text. We have also seen the quotation tag, which will allow user to add a quotation to the text. So another way to do this is we can also do something like this. So I can simply add the quotation like this. But if I do this and save this, you can see that these quotations look very simple. There is no sense of style available to this in comparison with the quotation that we get with the Q symbol. Then we have seen block quote, which allows us to write the text as a block, and finally we have also seen the abbreviation. Now one thing you might have noticed over here is that some tags, we just start those tags and then end those, and then that's all. But sometimes we add some extra information to these tags. Now what is this all about? So this is known as attribute. Some tags have attributes attached to them that you have to pass absolutely necessary. Sometimes these are optional tags, and sometimes you don't need any tag. For example, a P tag can survive without any additional information to it, not a problem. But there are some optional tags such as style, which you can attach to it. For now, don't remember what I'm doing, but this is just to give you an idea. Solid black. And if I save this, you can see that we got the border. So this style is an attribute that we attached to this P tag. And as I said, it is not necessary at all. This is an optional attribute. But for example, in case of abbreviation, we have to have this attribute attached to it. Otherwise, it is not going to make any sense. You can see that we don't have that underline to it anymore. Only if I have title, then I will get this. So this is known as attribute. Adding an attribute is important to some tags while optional to another, and absolutely not required for most of the tags. you can get more information about what are all the attributes available to any tags by going to the W3 schools. For example, if I searched for the P tag over here, the paragraph, you can see that you will get an information about the P tag and what it does and how to use it on the W3 schools. And if you scroll down a bit, you will see the information about the tag references. So this gives you an idea that how exactly you can refer these tags. And if you want to check the attributes that P is attached to, then you can go over here. So you can see that you can use dir, hidden, id, lang, spell check, style, tab index, title, translate, all these attributes. Earlier we used style, if you remember correctly, and now depending upon what is the use case, you will add attributes to it. Just like attributes, we also have events. So consider the scenario where you add a button to your application. Generally, when we have button or when we have an input text bar, we expect some sort of activity to happen when we either click on that button or when we search or when we type in the input box. So that activity is actually captured with the events. So generally buttons will have events like on click or on hover and more things like that. And these events will be then traced back to the JavaScripts where we actually write the JavaScript code about what should happen when we click on those buttons. So this is how the HTML is connected with the JavaScript. Now let's try to add a button. To add a button, we can simply write button and then that's all. So you can see that if I add button known as hit me, if I scroll down, you will see that I have that button over here. But obviously nothing happens when I click on it because we haven't added any event to it. Now of course I can add an event by adding an on click, and you can see that when I type on, you can see these many events are attached to the button. You can see so many events are attached to it. I can do on click, and then here it will expect me to write either a JavaScript code in it or to connect it back with the JavaScript code that we have written in a JavaScript file. For now, don't worry about it. Now I'm going to write something. Console.log I am in a console. And now let's see what happens when we actually save this. If I save this and if I hit again, nothing is happening. But now let's go to the console tab that we visited at the starting of the lecture. Here you can see that I have this I am in console. Don't worry about these three things that you see over here. But if I refresh my page one more time, and if I click on this hit me button, you can see that we get this text over here that I am in a console. This is because I have written a little bit JavaScript code over here which basically deals with the console. So this is just to give you an idea that how exactly JavaScript will work. Don't worry about it right now. We are going to have an in-depth lecture related to JavaScript in its specific lecture series. For now, just take a chill and create as many buttons as you want. Create a button with hit me, then create another button with please don't hit me, and so on and so forth. You can keep on adding more and more buttons. And the funny thing is you can also add emojis to it. So just go to the emoji copy website, and you can copy any emoji that you want. It doesn't matter. You can actually write emojis in the HTML. This site is taking forever to load. Let's go to some another site. Okay, let's copy this. Let's paste it over here. And now if we go to the page again, you can see that we have an emoji over here. So this is how we can create the buttons in our application. Now let's try to create something that we saw on the Google page. Generally, the pages that we see, any website, let it be Google Doc or maybe this drawing website or maybe the W3 schools, you can see that we will have these types of texts that when we click on it, it redirects us to some another pages. For example, in Stack Overflow, when I click on this, it redirects me to some another page. So this is done using a tag. So for now, I will remove most of the dummy text that we had. I will just keep one paragraph in case if we need it afterwards. And now I will add a tag. So a tag allows us to anchor the different URLs to this. So I will add a tag, and you can see that href is a mandatory attribute with the a tag. For now, let's just keep it blank and right click me. When we save this, you can see that we have text and this looks like a different color. So this gives you an immediate impression that we should click here. Similarly, if you observe the arrow correctly, you will see that right now it is a normal arrow, but as soon as I go on this text, it changed into a hand, which tells us that this is a clickable thing. And when you click on it, obviously nothing is happening over here because we haven't given any information, but this gives us an idea that this is a clickable thing. Now if I go back and type a website, let's say this website, if I paste that link over here, if I save this and if I go back to my about me page, now if I click on this, this will take me to that lorem ipsum website that we referred to using this href. So this is the main goal of href, and obviously the a tag. A tag allows us to refer different web pages into our web page using a tag. So, but one thing that I noticed over here, that it is actually replacing our page with a new page. We don't want that. We want our page to live, and then a new page should open on a new page like this. So when we right click and open it in a new tab, you can see that it opens in a new tab. We want a behavior like this. In that case, we will add one more attribute known as target, and then the value of this will be underscore blank. Now how do I know this? Again, go back to W3 schools and search for a tag. Here if you scroll down, you will see that we can add attribute known as download, href lang, media, and if I scroll down, I will get this target, and this target gives me some idea that what exactly we want to do with it. So specifies where to open the document. So we generally want to open it in a blank page. That is why we are adding a blank. But we can also add parent, self, or top. So for now, let's just take the blank. And when I add this blank and save this, now if I go back to the about me page and if I click on this click me, voila, this opens in a new page. Perfect, isn't it? Now there are more things that we can do with it. For example, right now we are referring to the websites which are already live. What if that is not the case? What if I have one more HTML page, let's say about me.html, and I will again write some basic HTML code in it. I will have to actually change its behavior from Django HTML to normal HTML. And this is a about me page. H1, what do you want to know about me? That's all. Now I have this about me page. If I go to my website one more time and instead of loading sample.html, if I load about me.html, you can see that we got our new page created. But I don't want to write it over here. What I want is when I click on this button, it should go to about me page, which is obviously not a live page. So what should we do in that case? In that case, we will create actually one more a tag so that we can compare it side by side. And here in href, we will locate the HTML file that we want to address to in comparison with the location of the sample file. Now what do I mean by that? If I show you my folder, here in day1 folder, both of these files live side by side. That means in the sample.html, if I just referred this file as about me.html, this will work perfectly fine. If I go to my browser one more time, and I forgot to add some name, so about page. If I go to my browser one more time and if I refresh, now when I click on this, it loads the about me.html file perfectly the way I wanted it. Now in about me, I now want to again go back to my sample page. So what I will do is I will add one more a tag over here, and now I will refer to my file. I don't have to think too much, because since both of these files are in the same folder, I can simply refer them by writing their name, sample.html. That's all. Back to home. If I save this, and when I click on this, it takes me back to the sample.html. But what if my about me file is not exactly the neighbor of sample.html? What if I have one more folder, let's say about, and then this about me file is in this folder. Notice that now if I go to my finder, I have this day1 and then I have this about. So I have two folders, each holding one HTML file. In that case, I will go to the sample and I will use dot slash, or I will basically one dot and slash will means that you have to scan this folder. But we have to go one step up, where we are not actually in the day1 folder, but we are in a web GIS dev folder, so that from there we can go to the above folder. So to do that, I will use double dot, and now when we use forward slash, you can see that we got the list of all the folders available in here, and then I can go to the about and refer to my file. So this is how we can actually refer to the files. Now if I go back and click on about page, you can see that still it works perfectly fine. But when I click on here, you can see that it doesn't work, cannot get, because in the about me it is still written as a sample.html, which means it is expecting a sample.html file in this folder only, which is obviously not the case, and that is why we cannot find it. So I will also have to change it over here by going to double dot slash day1 slash sample.html. And now if I go back and if I click on back to home, okay, I have saved it. I will go back and refresh it, and when I click on back to home, I am now in my sample HTML page. So this is how we refer to the local files available. Now generally you will also see some websites where they will have some tags at the navbar, and when you click on it, it just scrolls down page, nothing else. So let me give you an example of that over here. I think we will be able to find something like this over here. So this is generally known as the sections. So how exactly we can create sections? So using a tag, we can do it something like this. So let's say if I copy this p tag couple of more times, just to give you an idea. Now if I go back to our sample page, you can see that we have couple of lorem ipsum. Let's say after this I will add couple of more, and then I will add a p tag with this is the section we were referring to. Now I will add one more attribute over here known as ID. ID is one of the most important attribute, and of course it is a global attribute that you can attach to any tag. And ID basically is we will be focusing more on how to use ID when we actually go to the JavaScript part of the course, because ID is which will connect your HTML with JavaScript. So let's say refer this. Okay, I have added an ID, and then I have added a couple of more these p tags. Okay, now if I go to my website, you can see that we have a lot of p tags, and then we have this text that we have written at our on our own. Now what do I want to do is, when I click on this button, I want my web page to directly go to that text. So to do that, what we will do is, we will first of all copy the ID. Then we will go to our a tag where we want to write it. So let's just write it next to our other a tags. And now here in href, instead of referring to a file, what I will do is I will write hash and then the ID. That's all. Go to p tag. Now when I save this, if I go to this p tag, you can see that my page immediately shows this p tag over here. And also if you notice the URL, we have this pound or hash refer this presented over here. So this is how in a single page we can have multiple sections, and then we can create such a tags to refer to different sections. So imagine that if you are creating a portfolio website, then you can use something like this. So you will have a single HTML page, but in it you can use a tags to help user to go to the section that they are interested in. So we have this question that for last folder we use this. If we have more folders, for example we need to go back 10 folders, then do what? Okay, very good example. Now let's try to do that. So I have this folder, let's say A. Inside this I have one more folder B. Inside this I have one more folder C, and then finally I have a D. Okay, and I have an HTML file in it known as ss.html. Okay, I will write plain HTML code just to save some time. Blah. And then what we will do is, I will add a tag where I want to refer to sample, and then I will add a tag refer to about me. Okay, now I have presented to you that to go one step forward you will add double dot and then this. Again, if you want to go one step forward, you will keep on adding this. So this is how you can keep on adding double dot and slashes to go to the folders that you want. Then we will go to day 1 and sample HTML, and that's all. Now if I stop my server and started it again, if I click on refer to sample, here we are. So this is how we will actually keep on referring to different pages which are in different folders by adding as many double dot slashes as we want. So this is how we can refer to any folder. So I hope this clears the doubt. Okay, back to our a tag. So we have used ID, we have used the offline file, and then we have also referred to the website which is live. So this is how we can actually use a tag. Now again I will remove all these things, make it a clean web application. Okay, and now let's try to add the lists. So now what we want to do is ingredients to make biryani, and since I'm vegetarian I'll be referring to the vegetarian biryani. I do agree to people who say that vegetarian biryani is just like pulav, but then that's fine. This is a conversation for another live series. So if I want to create biryani, I have to have some recipe with me, right? So let's just go to veg biryani recipe, and if I go to the recipes, you will see that generally recipe must be followed in a way it is intended to follow. That means I cannot have 7 peppercorns first, then add half a cup of water, then add 1 tomato diced, and things like that. So here you see we have some steps to follow. We have to melt the ghee, and then we have to stir a ginger garlic paste in it. We cannot take this step first and then come back to this step. That means we have to create an ordered list. So we have to create ordered list. So generally when we will refer to ordered list, it will have order attached to it. To create an ordered list, we will use OL. And OL is a tag that is referred to create an ordered list. Now inside a list, we will have list elements, right? So each elements will be created by using li tag. And now this li tag will actually include thing that you want to write. For example, this melt ghee over a medium heat and then add onion and cook. So I can simply copy this and paste it over here, and like this. So I can create the recipe like this, and once I do this, if I go back to my sample page, you can see that I have to remove this first, and you can see that now we have an actual ordered list. So this gives user an idea that first do this, and then finally do this. So this is how ordered list is created. Now what if I don't want to use 1 2 3, maybe I want to use ABC. So to do that, I can use something known as type. So there are generally 5 types available. As you can see, we can have numeric, we can have capital letter, we can have small letter, we can have capital Roman and then small Roman. So if I do capital Roman and if I hit enter, you will see that we have I, double I and triple I. So this is how ordered list is created. Generally, li tag will have one more thing attached to it, which is known as value. And the reason why when we create an li tag we don't see this is because this is an optional thing. It's not always mandatory, but this is something that we will need when we will actually use JavaScript. So for now, you can keep it empty. That should not be a problem. Okay, so this is how we create a ordered list. Now what about unordered list? That means imagine that someone asks you to write down all the colors that you write. Now in that case, it won't matter that which color you write, which color you like first or which color you like second, unless that they are asking you to rank your favorite color, right? So you can then say that my most favorite color is red, then I like black, and then I like blue, something like this. But someone when generally asks you which colors you like, they don't care about the order of it. They will only care about the elements in it. So to create an unordered list, we will use a tag known as ul. And now inside ul, again we will write li, and then we will write all the colors that we like. So for example, red, then black, then green, then yellow, and things like that. Now you can see that when we create unordered list, we get these symbols, these bullets, and this now tells us that it doesn't matter whether you specify green first or red first. As long as you are specifying those with li tags, it is completely fine. Now we can also change the type or the way it is looking. So to do that, we will use something known as list style type. And there are various ways to add list style types. So the one way that we can know that which type we are interested into is we will simply search for list style type li. And when we open the W3 schools, you can see that there are so many styles available. So if I click on play it, you will see that when we click on none, then there is no style. When we click on katakana, then we have something like this. When we click on Georgian, we have this. When we click on upper Roman, we have this, so on and so forth. So this is how we can change different styles. We can also have something like a square. So this is how we create unordered list. Now let's take this one step further. If you have did any shopping for clothes, let's say especially with female, you will see that for males red is red, but for females this is not the case. They have baby red, they have cherry red, they have blood red, so on and so forth. Now how do we write that? all these different types of red are actually part of red family. But if I ask someone what is their favorite color, and what if they want to say that in red family I like cherry red and baby red, in green family I like leaf green and grass green. So that means we want to create a list, but not just a list, we want to create a nested list. That means in red, then I want to write cherry red and baby red. In yellow I want to write something else, and so on. So to do that, what we will do is we will add a list inside a list. So an unordered list, and inside my first li element I can write more things, like I will write one more ul, and then inside this ul I can add more li. So I will write cherry red, and then I will write something as blood red. Now if I save this and if I go back, you can see that under red I have two more red color available, cherry and blood red. Now again, if you want to go absolutely crazy, then you can add one more ul to it, and then you can add more information to it, like dark blood red, or maybe you can say, I don't know what other blood reds are, but let's say fresh blood red. Okay, if I save this, now you can see that we have red, and then it has some elements nested in it, and then this blood red again has some elements nested in it. So this is how we can do nesting in our lists. It is not necessary that ul will only list ul inside it. It can also have ol inside it. So I can also replace this ul with, let's say, ol, and I will change that over here. And if I do this, you can see that I have first unordered list, then an ordered list, and then again unordered list. So you can make this combination the way that you want. So I hope this ordered and unordered list is clear to you guys. Please use chat box if you want to ask me anything about it specifically. Okay, let's move forward and understand how to add images. So add images. Now images are little bit similar to the a tag that we used earlier. Your image can be either hosted somewhere, or it can be offline as well, and we will see both of these types. So when I click on image tag, you can see that here now image tag is a self-closing tag. That means we don't have something like dash image or something like that. It's a self-closing tag. And now inside this src, we can actually provide the link of the image. Now let's try to get some image online, and then we will show that. Okay, let's see that. Okay, let's use this image. Now to use this image, what I will do is I will click on this and I will copy the image address, and then I will go back to my HTML and paste it over here. Let's see if this works. If I go back to my about me page, you can see that now we have that image available to us. And of course this is very huge image. we can obviously control the width, and the way that we do this is using the width attribute, and then whatever you write will be actually considered as a pixel. So I can write something like 50, and then you can see that now my image is of 50 pixels. I can write something like 500, then we can get a 500 pixel worth of image. So the next question we have is, sir, in IOL how will we mention which order format what we want? So in OL, as I suggested, you can use something like type, and then in this type you can write which format you want. If you want 1, then you can have it as a 1. If you type a small a, you will have it as a small a, and so on and so forth. You can also have a start, where then if I mention F, I think that only works with the number. Let's see if it does. And you can see that when I add start, it will start from 19, 20 and 21. So this is how you can add the type and start to your ordered list. Okay, now back to the image. So this is how we can refer to any image and play with its width and height that we want. So if I have 800, you can see that now this is not a properly oriented image. So ideally we should either add width or height in order to keep the aspect ratio of the image constant. Now what is this alt tag? Now imagine that this link that we are giving is not working tomorrow. So what will happen in that case? We definitely don't want user to see a blank page. Either we can have an image that says that this is an orange image or something like that, so that in case that either image breaks or it takes time to load the image, then we can show that text. So for example, if I make any change in the image URL, making sure that this is now broken, then I can add something like this is an orange image, and if I save this, you can see that we got this image broken symbol, but at the same time we also got the text, which at least gives us some idea that this is a orange image. So this is how we can use the alt tag to add some text which will be used in case the image source is broken. Now if I download this image, I can then refer to this image from my application. So for the sake of understanding, I won't keep this image in day 1 where we want it, and I will change the name because it's easier to write a smaller name. So let's say test image. So this is a JPEG image. Now the way we will refer to it is the exact same way that we refer to the HTML file. We will simply go one step above and write test.jpg. Simple as that, and this is how it will work. If I store any another image, let's say test2, and let's now keep this image in the ABCD folder. Now to refer to this image, we will add a image tag, and we'll go in A, B, C, D and test JPEG. Now our test is in that folder and test2 is directly available one step ahead. Now if we go to our sample, we have the test2 and we also have the test1 image. So this is how we will refer to the image's address either online or offline, depending upon where you have this image added in the folder structure. We can also use the absolute path. So what do I mean by that? On Mac, I will simply click on path name and this will give me the absolute path. If you're on Windows, you will see something. If your image is on desktop, you will see something like C, then your username, and then desktop, and then that image, and this path will also work just as fine. So either we have to give the reference based on our current file, or we can also give the absolute path. Both of these things will work perfectly fine. Now the next thing that we will do is we will try to add a email tag to our application. Generally, when you will go to any website, you will see that you will have an image, you will have an email option available. So for example, if I go to my website known as specialops.github.com. I don't think it's working. Okay, no problem. Special ops, or let's just, for the sake of understanding, whenever we go to some pages, they have written something like this, that you will have a text like this: click here to write us an email, and then you will have an email address. So for example, me at the rate krishnagloda.com. Right, so if you have this text, when you go to your application, now let me just remove these images. Again, if I don't want to load them, I will simply comment those. So as I comment those images are gone. Even though I have the text, that means tomorrow if I want to add those images again, I will just remove the comment tags and the images will be available to me again. So this is how we can use comments in the development. So back to our email thing. Now we have written that click here to write us an email. So generally what user will do is they will select the email, they will go to their Gmail or Yahoo or something else, and then they will write us the mail. And then it becomes very cumbersome from a user's angle as well, because they will have to take so many steps, and from our us as a website owner as well, because generally we want the emails to have certain formats like a body or a title, so that we know that when we get this email, we are getting this from the website. For example, what I want to do is that whenever someone clicks here, it should open their email client automatically. They should have my email written over there automatically, and they should also have a subject written over there automatically, that this is a test email, and a body of course automatically with something like this is a body of a text email. So it is all of these things I want to do with my code, so that this takes pressure off from the users. So to do that, we will use something known as a again, but instead of using href, we will use something known as mail2. So when we actually use mail2 instead of https, now this tells HTML and of course a browser an idea that we want to actually write a mail. So if I write something like me at the rate Krishna G Lodha, and if I do this, click here in this, and let's say I don't need this anymore because I already have that setup done for me. So I will move this text over here so that we see something like this: click here to write us an email. And when I click here, you can see that it actually loads my Gmail, and I have this thing written over here. I have the email ID already selected for me. So we are halfway there. We are saving user a time to open their own Gmail and then write our email ID over there. By just simply adding mail2, we are doing this right away. Now we can add more things to it, such as subject. So we'll add a question mark and then subject, and then we will write this is a test subject. Once I save this, and if I go back to my application one more time, now when I click on this, now you can see we have email as well as we have subject written over here. So this is how we can add more things. For example, we can add body, and then in body I want to write this is in body which is coming from sample. And if I save this, if I go back to my website one more time, and if I click on this, now this will have body, this will have subject, and this will also have my website, my email ID. Finally, I can also add CC to it. So you can see that so many things we can do with just HTML. I want to add CC as Krishna @rottengrapes.tech. And if I do this, go back to my web page one more time and click on here, you will see that I have Krishna, and also I have a CC of Krishna @rottengrapes.tech written over here. So this is how we can use a tag to simply create emails for us. And when a user sees this, you are already saving him a lot of time, where then he don't have to write your email ID. He doesn't have to think about what should be the subject or what should be the body, and then he can simply send you an email, and that will work just as fine. So this is how we can use the a tag to create emails for us. So this is everything that we wanted to cover in today's first session. I hope this session was useful to you guys. If you are also interested into Python, make sure that you go to YouTube, and you under my channel, you will see this geospatial analysis with day 1 that we had on 4th of Jan on Python. So this is again a very interesting series to follow. Now depending upon what you want to do, either you can enroll in geospatial analysis with Python, or web GIS development, or maybe both, why not? And make sure that you are also available in the Slack group, because this is where I keep on hosting private sessions. I keep on adding the information that you need to learn as a beginner, and obviously all our conversation go over there. So I would highly recommend you guys to join the Slack channel and join the upcoming live sessions. If you have any questions, make sure that you add those in the WebGIS training channel on the Slack, so that either me or anyone else will answer to you. Thank you guys for attending. It was a great session today. I see you in the next session. Thank you.